It's Thursday, July 30th, and this is now on H&N.
Well, I know that they're going to delay. There's no question that the parents and teachers have spoken up loud and clear that they need more preparation time.
Leaders consider reinstating mandates as the hotel industry says it's ready for visitors to return to the islands.
We will basically take care of a customer, a guest that comes to Hawaii and during the course of their stay, they contract the virus.
Friends and co-workers remember the registered nurse fatally stabbed in Makiki.
Her death is such a huge loss.
Herman Cain, a one-time Republican presidential candidate, has died from the coronavirus. Coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having lunch with us here at This Is Now. I'm Jonathan, your director. Alongside Ashley here, we begin with another record number of new coronavirus cases for the state.
Hey everyone, health officials are reporting 124 new COVID-19 cases today. We're told the majority of cases are on Oahu, several are on Maui, and there are no new cases on Kauai or the Big Island. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Governor Josh Green spoke to us about the restrictions and mandates that could be reinstated amid this surge in cases. Here's what he had to say.
We are hearing from the neighbor island mayors, and they are asking for a slew of different restrictions. What do you foresee in the next week or two as being approved by the governor?
Well, I'm certain he's going to approve the gathering size limitations. That worked quite well. I think that also you're going to see some pullback at beaches and parks. The smartest thing to do absolutely would be to just really exercise there and take a 2-week breather from being at the beach parks in large numbers. That would be the best thing we could do. There's a lot of pressure on bars, restaurants, and clubs. We should do whatever is right based on the data. If we do close any businesses, we should probably support them economically through a mandatory closing. So those are the kind of things you're going to hear. And then the neighbor island mayors, because they've had very, very few cases on the neighbor islands, are likely to suggest that we go back to the inter-island travel quarantine, or the ban basically on travel between the islands, if not for essential work. I think that's probably unnecessary at this moment, but with the spread that we've had and our inability to fully contact trace everybody, and I'll say that again, we have an inability to fully contact trace everybody. I'm hearing it from the tracers themselves. We have to be mindful. There's only 2 ways to stop this virus: total shutdown or modified shutdown with incredible capacity to trace and test. And we're just not quite doing that.
So what exactly are we failing at as far as contact tracing? Why are we not able to do this as a state?
We haven't hired enough people. We haven't put enough full-time people into place. You're going to have to dig into that in the coming days, but I'm digging into it now and I'll help. It's just important that we support the Department of Health to get all of the possible people fully employed. When I say 400 people, I don't mean people doing it for a couple hours a day. 400 full-time contact tracers, going up to 500 once we have more people coming into the state. If we don't do that, there's no way we can track daily case rates of 109, 73, 65. These are the numbers we've had. And remember, they accumulate. We now have 624 active cases, and that number's been growing every day because our numbers have been surging. Some of the tracing requires as much as 40 people to be traced from one case. Now, that's a rare and high number. The average is more like 12, but it's extremely difficult to do. It's very hard work. It's labor intensive. People are reluctant sometimes to share that they've been a contact, because then they know that they're going to be quarantined for 14 days and have to be away from work. It's just something that we have to commit completely to, because this is the whole ball game. We can ask people to distance all we want, and we see what happens. A lot of people still go out and have beach parties and set up tents on the beaches. It's human nature to want to be social, so we may have to really be more restrictive in those areas to be safe, but what we should do is professionally contact, trace, and test everybody. That's how other countries succeeded in stopping COVID.
I believe we just learned today that there were 8 people, students and staff, who were infected with coronavirus while attending summer school. Does that Would that change your mind at all as far as opening up schools for students, or that the fact that it would be safe? Because we're looking at August, whether it's the 4th or the 17th.
Well, I know that they're going to delay. There's no question that the parents and teachers have spoken up loud and clear that they need more preparation time. They don't feel that they have a comprehensive health plan to stop what you just described. There's probably going to be a lot of spread at schools just naturally. The good news is children are not manifesting the disease in any serious way, or it's at least very, very rare that they get severe disease. Now, that's not much consolation when they come home to parents who are in their 40s or 50s, or grandparents at the household that are in their 70s. I'm concerned. What I see right now, if you ask me today what will happen is, if we open the schools and at the same time we have caseloads of, high double digits or low triple digits, over 100, there will be lots of spread across the community. A few schools will have outbreaks. People will freak out, and then schools will close indefinitely with distance learning. That's the trajectory we're on right now. So we better darn well have a full plan to trace every possible contact at schools if there's outbreaks. We'll have to be able to immediately close classrooms if there's an outbreak. And I err on the side of caution on this one. I think that they've worked very hard at DOE to put a plan together because it's critical to educate children, but it's even more critical to prevent statewide spread of COVID.
A lot of you are asking, so here's a summary of just a few of the new cases. We just learned a second firefighter assigned to the Hawaii Kai station has tested positive. So has a Board of Water Supply employee. The Arcadia Retirement Home says a dining services wait staff member has the illness. Also, 2 workers at the construction site of the new Azure condo have been diagnosed. And the Department of Education says 8 cases were reported during summer school involving students, employees, and service providers. A local celeb has been arrested for allegedly breaking quarantine rules. Lacey Denise has the story.
Local television personality Tadani was taken into custody at a vendor booth at the Ohana Marketplace in Kaka'ako yesterday. We're told Tadani returned from Las Vegas 4 days ago, but failed to quarantine at home for the required 2 weeks. A concerned citizen who follows Tadani on social media reported his quarantine violation to authorities. Investigators say Tadani posted videos of himself dining at a Honolulu restaurant with his family while he should have been in quarantine. Tadani was released yesterday after posting $2,000 bail. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
A woman fatally stabbed in Makiki, allegedly by her boyfriend, has been identified. Lynn Kawano reports.
The 31-year-old victim was dedicated to medicine and caring for others as both a registered nurse and graduate research assistant at UH.
She was one of my longest student employees in my lab. And her death is such a huge loss, not just to our lab, but to everyone who knew her. She will be very much missed by everyone.
Dr. Victoria Fan, an associate professor at the University of Hawaii, says Mary Guo was full of energy and excitement.
Just a wonderful personality, always cheerful, never a complaint, never a negative word ever came out from her mouth.
Case for Saluda.
Police say Guo was killed by her boyfriend, 35-year-old Dustin Saluda. Saluda held his stomach and limped into frame as he made his first court appearance remotely from OCCC. He is charged with murder, accused of stabbing Guo to death in a Makiki apartment Sunday night. In 2013, after setting fire to a condo and threatening firefighters, he was acquitted for insanity. He was committed to the state hospital and other mental health facilities, but in 2018, a circuit court judge released him without further restriction.
And at that point, we strenuously object to saying no. He's a violent individual given his past history. We do not want him unsupervised.
Deputy Prosecutor Scott Spallina says Saluda came to his office a few weeks ago, acting strangely, but couldn't be sent back to a doctor because Saluda had no court restriction.
Because he was not acting suicidal or homicidal at that time, he was a free citizen like you or I.
Saluda's bail is $1 million. Mary Guo was a registered nurse at Palolo Chinese Home. In a statement, they said Mary was kind, thoughtful, and loved by everyone with whom she interacted. She was fully committed to her profession, providing excellence in the field of healthcare. She will be forever remembered in our hearts. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is said to be resting comfortably at a New York hospital after undergoing a non-surgical procedure. The 87-year-old got a bile duct stent replaced, which is considered a minor procedure. She got the stent last year. Ginsburg is expected to be released from the hospital by the end of the week. She recently announced her cancer had returned. Herman Cain, a former presidential candidate and staunch supporter of President Trump, has died from the coronavirus. He was 74 and was spotted at a rally without a face mask last month. Michael George reports.
Herman Cain was hospitalized with COVID-19 on July 1st, less than 2 weeks after attending a rally for President Trump in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he was seen in the stands without a face mask. A post from his website's editor says, "We're heartbroken and the world is poorer. Herman Cain has gone to be with the Lord." It says the 74-year-old had a rough fight and that medications failed to bring his breathing back to normal. The White House press secretary said in a tweet that Cain embodied the American dream and the best of the American spirit. Cain first gained prominence as a business leader, the former CEO of Godfather's Pizza. He got involved in Republican politics in the 1990s and ran for the Republican presidential nomination in 2012, campaigning for a 999 tax reform plan. He said the simplified code would stimulate the economy.
999 is going to turn this economy around. Peace through strength and clarity is what we need.
He suspended his campaign after accusations of sexual harassment, allegations he denied. He became an outspoken supporter of President Trump, who returned the favor by nominating Cain for a seat on the board of the Federal Reserve.
I find Herman to be an outstanding person, a truly outstanding individual. I would think he would do very well there.
Cain says he withdrew his name from consideration, but he continued to support the president as a leader of black voices for Trump, where his co-chair remembered him as a fighter until the end. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Hawaiian Airlines has sent out hundreds, if not thousands, of layoff notices. Howard Dykes reports.
You will hear the term WARN notice, WARN, W-A-R-N, Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification. Federal law requires 60 days notice of more than 50 layoffs. Hawaiian offered voluntary separations and waited for that main deadline to expire, then sent out involuntary notices. Letters are apparently going to about a third of Hawaiian's union employees. Hawaiian anticipates some workers getting notices could wind up not being laid off, but doesn't know how many. The airline employs 7,000 people. Here's some better job news. Long's Drug has hundreds of openings. Long's is ramping up to do lots more COVID testing. More than 100 will be hired in the next 30 days and more later. The openings include managers. Local 5 says its members are launching hotel inspections to ensure the safe reopening of tourism.
Local 5 has embarked on a hotel inspection program because we are very concerned about the health and safety of our industry and of our membership and of our community. We are concerned that hotels, as they reopen, need to reopen safely, and that is a complex and difficult thing that needs to be done. It needs to involve workers who are actually going to participate in the safety measures, and it needs to involve training and many, many different aspects. You know, hotel operations are complex communities of interacting individuals, and we need to be able to figure out how to do that safely in a pandemic situation.
The Big West has postponed all fall sports. That decision affects UH teams like Wahine Volleyball and soccer. Billy V has more.
Thank you very much. We're here in front of the University of Hawaii Manoa Lower Campus. This is the athletics complex. And while this would usually be a bustle of activity, people getting ready for the fall sports today, it's very quiet, except for the occasional arrival of some of the University of Hawaii football players. Now, while this announcement by the Big West was not surprising, the move is greatly disappointing to the UH Manoa athletics community. There is a chance that the postponed seasons can pick up in the spring if the conference decides to resume play. I talked story with Wahine soccer head coach Michelle Bud Nagamine, and she told me that she was a little relieved not to travel at this time. You know, how do you keep your athletes safe and healthy while on the road while making sure that you don't bring COVID back to Hawaii?
the first thing we thought was this was totally expected. We didn't know how we were going to be able to get our kids back and forth to California for multiple road trips and keep them safe. With the numbers increasing, steadily in California, we just were not sure how we could keep them, in safe and then not come back and affect our UH bubble that they work so hard to maintain. So it was not a surprise to us, but yet very disappointing.
Rainbow Warrior football is not affected by this announcement. That's because for football, UH plays in the Mountain West. No decision has been made from that conference as of yet. But for the program's games have already been canceled, and other conferences like the Pac-12, the Big Ten, they're doing conference play only, meaning they are not traveling far. A lot of people were thinking that the Mountain West will either go to conference-only games as well or cancel the fall sports seasons altogether. We're waiting for that determination from the Mountain West. From the University of Hawaii at Manoa, for This Is Now, I'm Billy V.
We have a couple breaking news stories coming into the H&N Digital Center that we need to tell you about.
This just in, city officials say the Honolulu Liquor Commission has shut down more bars for violating rules and the mayor's emergency order. Hank's Cafe and the Dragon upstairs on Nu'uanu Avenue, as well as next door on Hotel Street, were cited and must remain closed for 24 hours.
And that all comes as we learned there was another big spike in cases, 124 reported from the Department of Health today. And guys, I got a live picture I need to show you. Check this out. This is Dillingham near King Street. Both directions of Dillingham are shut down because of a water main break. You can see very vaguely there's water still spewing from right in the middle of the roadway there. This is in the area of the Jollibee. It looks like it might stretch all the way down to Costco. So if you're looking to make some shopping today, I would avoid that area and use Nimitz as your alternate. All right, guys, let's get a check of your weather. Here's Guy Hoggy.
Aloha on this Thursday. We've got textbook trade wind weather today, and that's what we're going to see for the next several days. Of course, that does include overnight and early morning windward and Mauka splashes. Really not much rain when you add it all up. And the rainfall will be even smaller in terms of rainfall totals because they'll be pushed along by those breezy trade winds. The trade winds will run pretty swift for the next several days, and that means comfortable humidity levels, except, of course, down in Kona where they won't have the luxury of the trade winds. Otherwise, what we see today is what we'll see for the next several days. Breezy trades, a few passing showers, and lots of leeward sunshine with very warm temperatures. Now, the surf's going to be pretty pathetic over the next few days. 1 to 3 in town, smaller than that for north and west shores, and no significant swells coming anytime soon. However, we are expecting a little boost coming into town tomorrow, and the wind swell on the east side will continue, although you know the deal there, because it's going to be choppy for the next several days where the surf is biggest on the east side. So these trade winds are settling in at 15 to 25 miles an hour for the next several days. There will be a few more showers for windward and Mauka areas today and tomorrow, and then drier conditions heading in for the weekend. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
The internet is abuzz today. We've got so much to talk about in From the Feeds. I'm going to begin with a story we first told you about yesterday, a new journey to Mars. And guess what? The NASA's rover went so smoothly this morning. Check it out. That's from there at the Kennedy Space Center. The spacecraft is carrying the Perseverance, rover up to Mars. It's going to be scheduled to land there in February of 2021. It takes that long to get there, folks. As we told you yesterday, it has all sorts of cool projects and works for it. It's going to collect some samples. It also has a cool helicopter drone attached to it that's going to explore the planet. This is all in search of possible examples of life that once existed on Mars. It could also pave the way for future space exploration beyond the moon for NASA. I love this stuff.
Very cool. Fascinating.
So cool. Yeah, right? Some sports news now, right?
Yep, so Major League Baseball is making some changes to its coronavirus protocol. Players are now they're now encouraged not to leave their hotel rooms except for games. Surgical masks will be required instead of cloth masks while traveling, and each team will have compliance officers to make sure they're all following the rules. Now, this is definitely not a bubble, but the league is in damage control after 15 Marlins players and 2 coaches tested positive. And just a reminder, the NBA starts today. The Pelicans take on the Jazz. Hopefully we'll see a lot of Zion Williamson. He left the bubble briefly and cleared quarantine, but no word on how much he'll actually play today. Pelicans Jazz starts at 12:30 Hawaii time, and after that, it's the Lakers and Clippers at 3 p.m.
Just a few minutes away.
And after months of decline, global beer sales have picked up again. Anheuser-Busch, the world's largest brewer, says restrictions related to the pandemic affected business, and the company even had to shut down some of its operations. Many bars, pubs, and restaurants were also forced to close under stay-at-home orders, but with restrictions lifting, the owner of Budweiser, Corona, and Stella Artois say their sales rebounded in June compared to May.
I have tomorrow off, so I might contribute
To the
that.
beer sales?
A little
Go
bit.
for it. You
Maybe.
deserve
Just a
it.
few. Just a few. All right, the pandemic has actually brought out the creativity in some people. Jim Mendoza brings us the story of one photographer doing just that.
Connor Slavins was just getting his photography business going when coronavirus entered the picture and blurred his financial future.
It was hard to get out, I wanted to be safe, and going out in public and certain things were restricted.
Out of necessity, Connor switched to another art form, an old one that's reborn through social media sites like TikTok. It's called spin art.
You have the paint splattering all over the place, you get immersed in it, you get covered in paint.
His prints start with stacks of acrylic paint. The magic happens as the canvas spins on a homemade potter's wheel.
So the faster you go, it'll blend together, and the more paint you use, it'll cover the canvas more evenly.
Each painting is unique. He gives them names like Coexistence, Magma, and Sublime.
And as he started creating the pieces, I was immediately just blown away with the colors and the concept. It's just, you never know what it's going to quite come out to look like.
Connor turned his spin art into a new income source. He sells his work through his website. That helps replace what he lost to the pandemic.
But I never really saw myself as a painter until I really got into it, and I was like, wow, this is so fun and it's so creative.
He had to be creative, and it's generating other ideas.
Who knows, I might do something else. I've always been artistic, so the sky's the limit.
Jim Mendoza, Hawaii News Now.
Those are beautiful. Now on some other good news. The Postal Service is starting off the holiday season a little early. USPS has unveiled 5 new forever stamps for the 2020 holiday season. There's a Christmas stamp and a collection of winter scenes, which includes 10 photographs of snowy landscapes. If you want a more whimsical stamp, there's a Holiday Delights, which blends modern graphics and the traditional red, green, and white color scheme. There's also a new Hanukkah stamp and a Kwanzaa stamp that will be available. Issue dates have not been announced, but they will be as the season gets closer.
No knocking the artists, because I have no artistic talents, but sort of boring. I gotta say. Not like I'm a huge stamp person or anything like that, but when I saw I was expecting more.
Oh, well, that's what you get.
This next story got me, though.
Post Cereal and Dunkin' are brewing up 2 new cereals made with Dunkin' coffee. They're set to roll out nationwide beginning in August, and the 2 cereals, Dunkin' Caramel Macchiato and Mocha Latte, were inspired by Dunkin' fans' 2 favorite flavors and mark the first collaboration between the 2 companies. Now, the new cereals contain very small amounts of caffeine, roughly a tenth of a cup of coffee.
Cereal with caffeine.
I know.
Yikes. All right, we want to leave you with this live picture from Dillingham and King Street. It is still shut down. That is Dillingham in both directions because of this water main break. So if you're heading to Costco, avoid this route. Take Nimitz. You guys have a safe day out there. Have a good one.